Hey everyone, and welcome back to Open. So, as we close out Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, our last guest is the co founder and artistic director of Navatman Dance Company, a performing arts organization that nurtures personal evolution through Indian classical arts. And Navatman is best known for its Manhattan based and now online classes, critically acclaimed productions, stellar music ensemble, and Drive East, a week long collaborative festival celebrating their mission. Here now to share more is Navatman Dance Company's co founder and artistic director, Sahi Sambamoorthi. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me today.
Oh gosh. Well, we're excited to learn all about everything that you have chosen to invest into the next generation because you are an educator and you are passing it forward. And my first question to you is in honoring your Indian culture, right? Is this Indian classical performing arts something that you were born into, or is it something that you developed with time?
It's something for me I developed with time. My parents were not artistic families necessarily. In India, in the past, these art forms have been passed down through generations of families a lot of times. So this was a new endeavor for my family. It was something I think my mom wanted me to pursue because it kept me in touch with my cultural roots, gave me a lot of background on what it was to be Indian. And then it was just something that I personally loved and fell into. And I thought if I could give other people the experience I got growing up, what a thing it could be. So that's where that came from.
And so, what is it about it, though, that drove you into the field and also, I guess, committed you to pursuing it and passing it forward here in New York?
So growing up, I had the beauty of having a really superb teacher, Ramya Ramnarayan. And actually, so much of the Indian art forms are around this specific thought process or apprenticeship called Guru Shishya Parampara. And I fell in love with this art form, I think, through this apprenticeship methodology. And it brought me so much from really understanding how to run a company. Like I learned that through dance.
Interesting. That's
To
an interesting. No, you got to elaborate a little further, just a little bit, because that's interesting that through your art development, you learned how to run a company.
Yeah, I think the expectation for Indian dancers and musicians as we do our art form is not just that we do the art form, but we learn everything around it. As I got older, I was tasked with helping my dance teacher, maintain the studio or teach classes or as I got older, I really wanted to help her write grants and things like that. And so I would watch her run her nonprofit side by side every day, even though I wasn't participating in it really. And just from observing and being part of that world is how I got my first start into it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the way I make decisions might be even how I think of, well, what would she do, or what would Sridhar, my co founder, do? All these mentors in my life, how do they help me figure out how to run this company day to day?
So, what would you say is the most confusing thing that people have, or what? What I guess what is it? Do you find is most confusing to people when it comes to your culture?
Ooh, uh, that's a good question. I think one of the things that I was just having this conversation with one of our students the other day, and she looks at me and she goes, I don't know. Sometimes it's really hard to understand Indian dance and Indian music. And I looked at her and I was like, don't you love K-pop? And she goes, yeah, I love K-pop. And I was like, do you know the words to K-pop? And she goes, no. So then I was like, what's stopping you from loving Indian arts in the same way? Is it possible that the perception that it's confusing or different is the thing that's holding you back from loving it the same way you love K-pop? And it kind of turned a switch there. And I think that's the best way I think I can answer your question,
Yeah,
which is
yeah, yeah. Because I really, what I'm inviting our viewers to engage in is just really understanding that we have a lot more in common than we don't, right? And so
Yeah.
before we go, I do want to, I cannot leave you or let you go without having a conversation about Bollywood, because I
Mm.
think that's what people assimilate to Indian culture. Like, and so I just wonder what your thoughts are on that movement.
So, Bollywood was really only formulated in the last 50, 70 years. So when I think of Indian culture, to me, I don't think of Bollywood. Bollywood to me is a um, packaged, really beautiful, really connecting, fun way to think of how Western and Indian cultures can combine. Um, but when you have dances and music from India that has roots that trace back hundreds, thousands, etc. years, that to me is the cultural space that's India. And we were discussing earlier, one of the reasons that I'm not such a fan of Bollywood is because of their portrayal of race, color, women. So I tend to shy away from it a little bit more. But I do understand and respect why people within the Indian diaspora love it. So that's personal opinion. But
No, well, yeah, I'm curious to know because you actually come from this place of honoring the folklore, right? And so before we go, please share with us what we are about to experience in your presentation.
sure. So I have two short clips I gave you. I gave you one of our students who you'll notice they're a little bit younger, but I wanted you to have that experience of seeing how they train and grow. And they're doing a specific art form called Kathak, which is kind of standing and filled with chakkars. But the story that they're telling is about Durga. And Durga is a goddess in the Hindu pantheon, and she is protector of all. And you can see each of her arms that will come from her body showing knowledge on one hand, a mace or a bow and arrow on the other, so protecting with ferocity but also with love. And the second clip that I sent was of our professional dance company, which is just a pushpanjali, a greeting to the stage and the audience, showing you how that translates into like proscenium stages we have here in the US now.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so delicious. I cannot wait to experience it. Everyone, Sahi, Sambamoorthi, don't go anywhere. When we return, Navatman Dance Company is going to perform for us after the break. Don't go anywhere.